Okay, good evening.
So, guten Abend.
Let us begin with prayer.
Lasst uns mit Gebet anfangen.
Dear Heavenly Father,
Lieber himmlischer Vater,
I want to thank you that we can gather for evening worship
ich möchte dir danken, dass wir hier zum Abendandacht versammeln können
and that you want to lead us closer to showing us your glory.
und dass du uns näher zu dir ziehen möchtest und uns deine Herrlichkeit zeigen möchtest.
And I ask that you would help us now to understand the types.
Und ich möchte bitten, dass du uns jetzt hilfst, den Typen zu verstehen.
You can bring all these stories together in our mind
Dass wir all diese Geschichten in unserem Verstand zusammenbringen können.
and that you would draw our minds from this earth to you
Und dass du unseren Verstand von dieser Erde zu dir ziehen mögest.
and that you would wash us from all the false thoughts that we still have.
Und dass du uns waschen wirst von alle falschen Gedanken, die wir noch haben.
And I ask that you would also help Brother Lawrence, give him wisdom how to relate his thoughts.
Und ich bitte, dass du auch Bruder Lorenz segnest, dass du ihm Weisheit gibst, wie er seine Gedanken darlegen kann.
And bless also the translation and the live stream.
Und bitte segne auch die Übersetzung und das Livestream.
And help that we would all be attentive and that we can receive your words.
Und hilft uns alle aufmerksam zu sein, dass wir deine Worte erhalten können.
In Jesus' name, amen.
In Jesu Namen. Amen.
Okay. So this evening we want to look at Daniel chapter 3,
So, heute Abend wollen wir Daniel Kapitel 3 anschauen.
and I just want to basically lay something out, and I just want to basically present it to test it, okay?
Ich möchte was darlegen, um sie zu prüfen.
And I don't say it's solid yet, okay, but there's some evidences for it, and we should look at it and test whether it be so.
Ich sage nicht, dass das sicher jetzt ist, aber es gibt einige Beweise dafür und wir sollen es anschauen und testen, ob das so sei.
Okay, so, but before we go to Daniel chapter 3, we begin in Daniel chapter 1.
Bevor wir zu Daniel 3 gehen, fangen wir in Daniel 1 an.
Daniel chapter 1.
Daniel 1.
And I think it's not so long ago that we went through this chapter,
Es ist nicht allzu lange her, dass wir diesen Kapitel durchgemacht haben,
but it's always good to remind ourselves.
aber es ist immer gut, dass wir uns daran erinnern.
So Daniel 1 verse 1.
So, Daniel 1 und Vers 1.
It says, in the third year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem and besieged it. Okay, so where are we here?
So, wo befinden wir uns hier in Vers 1?
Surrounding of Jerusalem.
Yes.
Und Singen Jerusalem.
It's the sign, right?
Das ist dieses Zeichen.
Okay, so that would be here.
Was wäre denn hier?
Okay, and let us continue.
Lesen wir weiter.
It says, and the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar, to the house of his God, and he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God. And the king spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel, and of the king's seed, and of the princes, children in whom was no blemish, but well favored and skillful in all wisdom, and cunning in knowledge and understanding science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning in the tongue of the Chaldeans. And the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat and of the wine which he drank, so nourishing them 3 years, that at the end of they might stand before the king. Okay,
Vers
so
5.
at the end of 3 years, where would they to be?
So am Ende von 3 Jahren, wo sollen sie sein?
Standing before the king.
Stehen vor dem König.
Okay, and they were to be nourished, right?
Und sie sollten ernährt werden
From the king's meat and the wine.
von der königlichen Speise und Wein.
Let's continue, verse 8.
Lesen wir weiter, Vers 8.
But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with a portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. Now God had brought Daniel into favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs. Okay, and then Daniel asked for the 10 days trial, right?
Vers 9. Und danach fragte Daniel für diese 10 Tage, dass die geprüft werden.
Because in verse 12 it says,
Und in Vers 12 sagt es,
Prove thy servants, I beseech thee, 10 days, and let them give us pulse to eat and water to drink. Then let our countenances be looked upon before thee, and the countenance of the children that eat of the portion of the king's meat. And as thou seest, deal with thy servants. So he consented to them in this matter, and proved them 10 days. And at the end of 10 days, the countenances appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meat. Thus Melzer took away the portion of the meat and the wine that they should drink, and gave them pulse.
Vers 16.
Okay, at the end of the 10 days, what happened?
So am Ende von den 10 Tagen, was geschah?
He took away the filthy garments, right?
Er hat diesen schmutzigen Gewände sozusagen weggenommen.
He took away this false meat and this false wine.
Er hat diese falsche Speise und Getränk weggenommen.
Okay, so, and we know that will happen right here, right?
Und wir wissen, dass das gerade hier geschehen wird,
Yes, for the first group.
für die
Okay.
erste Gruppe.
Because the test for Daniel and his companions started here when they were now taken away. Yes?
Das Test für Daniel und seine Gefährten fing eben hier an, als sie weggeführt wurden.
So the siege of Jerusalem, the sign, and then they were tested.
Die Belagerung Jerusalems, der Zeichen eben, und danach sind sie getestet worden.
10 days.
10 Tage lang.
And it led them here to the point where their sins now got blotted out.
Das
Okay.
führte sie zu dem Punkt hierhin, wo ihre Sünden ausgetilgt wurden.
Okay, so just keep your finger here.
Halte den Platz hier.
Let's go also to Revelation chapter 2.
Gehen wir auch zur Offenbarung Kapitel 2.
Speaks about the church of Smyrna here.
Da spricht hier über die Gemeinde von Smyrna.
Revelation 2, verse 10. And 10 is enough. Okay.
So Offenbarung 2 und Vers 10.
It says, Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried. And ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. So where is it that you are cast into prison?
So, wo ist es, wo du ins Gefängnis geworfen wirst?
According to Luke 21, for instance.
Gemäß Lukas 21 zum Beispiel.
Donna, setz dich bitte hin. Okay. Yes.
Da, wo du ausgeliefert wirst.
Okay. So
Same as Revelation. It says the 10 days that which into prison, some of them.
So let's go, keep your finger here, Luke 21.
So, halte den Platz auch hier und geht zu Lukas 21.
And let us read here beginning in verse 10 down to verse 12.
Wir lesen die Verse 10 bis 12.
It says, Then said he unto them, Nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. So what's nation against nation?
Was ist Nation gegen Nation?
Internal.
It's shaking of the earth, right?
Das ist die Erschütterung der Erde.
Verse 11 it says,
Vers 11 sagt,
And great earthquakes shall be in diverse places, and famine and pestilences, and fearful sights and great signs shall there be from heaven. So that's the shaking of the heaven. Huh?
Vers 11 ist die Erschütterung vom Himmel.
So heaven and earth are shaken here in these two verses,
In
right?
diesen zwei Versen Himmel und Erde sind erschüttert.
In verse 12 it says,
Vers 12 sagt,
But before all these, so before the shaking of heaven and earth,
also noch bevor die Erschütterung vom Himmel und Erde,
they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. So here it says you cast into prison.
hier Vers 12 sagt, du wirst ins Gefängnis geworfen.
Okay, we know the heaven and earth shake here, right?
Und wir wissen, dass es hier ist, wo Himmel und Erde erschüttert.
So, but before that, you're delivered up, right?
Aber noch bevor das wirst du ausgeliefert,
Cast into prison.
ins Gefängnis geworfen.
According to Revelation 2, how many days?
Gemäß Offenbarung 2, wie lange? Viele Tage?
10 days.
10 Tage.
And be thou faithful unto
Also
death.
treu sein bis auf den Tod.
And we know at the end, then comes this death experience, right?
Wir wissen, am Ende kommt dieses Todeserfahrung.
Okay, and just go now to Zechariah chapter 3.
Gehen wir jetzt zu Sacharja Kapitel 3.
Zechariah 3 and just read verse 1 and 2.
Sacharja 3, die Versen 1 und 2.
It says, And he showed me Joshua the high priest standing before the angel of the Lord, and Satan standing at his right hand to resist him. And the Lord said unto Satan, The Lord rebuke thee, O Satan, even the Lord that hath chosen Jerusalem rebuke thee. Is not this a brand plucked out of the fire? So where is he plucked out of?
So, aus wo wird gepflückt?
Out of the fire.
Aus dem
Okay.
Feuer heraus.
Okay, and let's continue verse 3 and 4.
Verse 3 und 4 jetzt.
Now Joshua was clothed with filthy garments and stood before the angel. And he answered and spake unto those that stood before him, saying, Take away the filthy garments from him. And unto him he said, Behold, I have caused thine iniquity to pass from thee, and will clothe thee with change of raiment. Right? So here you have the same illustration as in Daniel chapter 1.
So, hier hast du dieselbe Darstellung wie in Daniel 1.
Take away the
Nehmt ihm
filthy garments, take away the king's meat. Right?
den schmutzigen Gewände weg, also der königlichen Speise wegnehmen.
So when you got the king's meat taken away, right here,
Also wenn du den königlichen Speise weggenommen würdest, also gerade hier,
where are you also plucked out of?
so aus wo bist du herausgeflogen?
Fiery furnace.
Aus dem
Okay.
Feuerofen.
Same as the wood tunnel.
Okay. Yes, so I just abbreviated with FF. Okay, fiery furnace.
Verkürze das mit FF, also feurige Brennofen.
Okay, good. So, and when you go back to Daniel chapter 1,
Und wenn wir zurück zu Daniel 1 gehen,
so in verse 16,
in Vers 16,
it says, Thus Melzer took away the portion of their meat and the wine that they should drink, and gave them pulse. Right? So takes away the false meat and now gives them the latter rain, basically. Okay?
er nimmt diese falsche Speise weg und gibt dir im Grunde den Spätregen.
Okay, because here in Daniel 1, you don't see Daniel and his colleagues in the fiery furnace. Okay.
In Daniel 1, du siehst nicht Daniel und seine Gefährten, wie sie im Feuerofen sind.
Yes, but you can know
So when
that they are these brands plucked out of the fire. Here, right?
Ihr könnt wissen, dass sie hier diese Brandscheiden aus dem Feuer gepflückt waren.
Okay. So you can know that they were clothed with filthy garments.
Also
Here.
ihr könnt
Okay.
wissen, dass sie mit schmutzigen Gewände hier bekleidet
Yeah,
waren.
line upon line. Okay.
Linie auf Linie.
Everybody understands?
Kann jeder verstehen?
So, and then verse 17.
Vers 17.
As for these 4 children, God gave them knowledge and skill in all learning and wisdom, and Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. Right? So he now received the full outpouring.
Also, hat jetzt das volle Ausgießung erhalten.
Yeah, yes. He understands now all visions and dreams.
Er
Right?
versteht jetzt allen Visionen und Träumen.
And then it says in verse 18,
Und in Vers 18 sagt es,
now at the end of the days that the king had said he should bring them in, then the prince of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar. And the king communed with them, and among them all was found none like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore stood they before the king. So that's now would be this final review, right? They stand now before the king.
Vers 19, das wäre diese finale Untersuchung. Sie stehen jetzt vor dem König.
And the king now looks at the finished product, okay?
Der König schaut das fertige Produkt an.
In verse 20 it says,
Vers 20 sagt es,
and in all matters of wisdom and understanding that the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers that were in all his realm. So how did he find them?
so wie fand er sie?
10 times better.
Zehnfach besser.
So 10 times. Okay, better.
Das ist zehnfach.
And what does Sister White say about the 10 times?
Und was sagt Ellen White über diesen zehnfach?
Not a rain, it comes as like the midnight cry.
Yeah. The latter rain comes with 10 times the power of the midnight cry. Right?
Der Spätregen kommt mit das Zehnfach an Kraft, wie das Mitternachtsruf.
And this year, the beginning of the 7th plague is also marked here, right, in this fractal. Okay.
Hier, das Anfang von der 7. Plage ist auch hier in diesem Fraktal
And
markiert.
we established that's the midnight cry,
Wir
right?
haben etabliert, dass das der Mitternachtsruf sei.
Okay. Which would be also in this fractal here, right?
Das hier in diesem Fraktal sein wird.
Okay. So here you have the midnight cry
Hier hast du den Mitternachtsruf,
going forward,
der vorangeht.
10 times the power.
Der Zehnfach an Kraft.
Okay. Good. And this is when they stand here before the king, right?
Und hier ist es, wo sie vor dem König stehen.
Now when we go to Daniel chapter 2,
Und wenn wir jetzt zu Daniel 2 gehen,
we have a similar illustration here, okay?
wir haben eine ähnliche Darstellung hier.
Because chapter 1, verse 1
Denn in Vers 1
says, and in the 2nd year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams, wherewith his spirit was troubled and his sleep brake from him. Then the king commanded to call the magicians and the astrologers and the sorcerers and the Chaldeans, for to show the king his dreams. So they came and stood before the king. So where do we mark Nebuchadnezzar having this dream?
bis Vers 2. Also wo markieren wir Nebukadnezar, der diesen Traum hat?
Yeah, also the beginning of the 6th
Anfang der
right?
6. Plage.
So in this fractal right here.
In
Okay.
diesem Fraktal wäre das hier sein.
Trouble.
Yeah, he's in trouble now, right?
Er ist betrübt jetzt.
It's like Pharaoh, yes, in the
So
story
wie
of Joseph.
Pharao in der Geschichte von Josef.
Same dream. Okay.
Derselbe Traum.
After 2
im Grunde.
years.
Yes, because in Joseph's story,
Denn in die Geschichte von Josef,
you remember,
könnt ihr die erinnern?
he was basically in this time here raised up, right?
In diese Zeitperiode aufgerichtet worden.
And then he was in prison for 2 years, right?
War ins Gefängnis 2 Jahre lang.
And after 2 full years at Pharaoh's birthday, Pharaoh had this dream, right?
Nach 2 vollen Jahren, an der Geburtstag von Pharao, er hatte diesen Traum.
Okay. And then Joseph stood here before the king and said, what will shortly come to pass,
Da
right?
stand Josef hier vor dem König und erzählte ihm das, was ins Kurze geschehen wird.
Okay, so Nebuchadnezzar has this dream here,
So Nebukadnezar hat diesen Traum hier.
and he also calls in the magicians, they cannot tell him.
Und rief sein Magier, sie können es ihm auch nicht
So
erklären.
let's jump down to verse 12.
Gehen wir zu Vers 12 hinauf.
For this cause the king was angry and very furious and commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. And the decree went forth that the wise men should be slain, and they sought Daniel and his fellows to be slain. So what is it now?
So was ist das jetzt?
The death decree,
Der
right?
Todesdekret.
So we understand that's marked right here, right?
Wir verstehen, dass das hier markiert ist.
Okay. And Nebuchadnezzar, which son-in-law is he?
Und Nebukadnezar, welches Sonntagsgesetz ist er?
First one.
It's the first
Das ist der
one, right?
erste.
And what's his attitude towards God's people?
Wie ist seine Einstellung zu Gottes Volk?
Persecutor.
Yeah, he's a persecutor,
Er
right?
ist ein Verfolger.
He's now angry and furious and he wants to kill them. Okay.
Zornig und wütend und möchte sie töten.
Okay. So we have a DD for death decree here,
So hier DD für Todesdekret.
and just erase this for now. Here.
Das wäre hier.
Okay, and so basically this now is the same illustration as in Daniel chapter 1, right?
Das hier ist im Grunde derselbe Darstellung wie in Daniel 1.
Okay, because in Daniel 1 they were now tested for 10 days. Okay.
In Daniel 1, sie sind 10 Tage lang geprüft worden.
In Daniel 2 they are now tested with this death decree. Okay.
In Daniel 2 werden sie mit diesem Todesdekret getestet.
Who was tested in Daniel 1?
So, wer war in Daniel 1 getestet?
Daniel and his 3 friends. Okay.
Daniel und seine 3 Freunde.
Okay, and who's to be slain here?
Und wer sollte hier umgebracht werden?
Daniel and his 3 friends.
Daniel
Okay.
und seine 3 Freunde.
So therefore the same test. Okay.
Deswegen ist es derselbe Test.
Okay, and then let's continue.
Fahren wir fort.
Verse 14.
Vers 14.
Then Daniel answered with counsel and wisdom to Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, which was gone forth to slay the wise men of Babylon. He answered and said to Arioch, the king's captain. So Arioch is the slayer, right?
So, Arioch hier in Vers 15 ist der Schlechter.
He would be, who would he be here?
So, wer werde er hier sein?
Titus, right?
Titus.
Okay. So then Daniel answered with counsel and wisdom to Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, which was gone forth to slay the wise men of Babylon. He answered and said to Arioch, the king's captain, Why is the decree so hasty from the king? Then Arioch made the thing known to Daniel. Then Daniel went in and desired of the king that he would give him time, and that he would show the king the interpretation. So Daniel asked now here for time, right?
Vers 16. Also Daniel bittet hier um Zeit.
Just like in Daniel chapter 1, he asked for 10 days. Right?
Genauso wie in Daniel 1. Er bat 10 Tage.
Okay, so that's now this test here.
Das ist dieser Test hier.
And then verse 17.
Vers 17.
Then Daniel went to his house and made the thing known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah his companions, that they would desire mercies of the God of heaven concerning this secret, that Daniel and his fellows should not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. So they are now sighing and crying. Yes?
So, sie seufzen und klagen jetzt.
They seek now for mercy here.
Sie suchen nach Gnade in dieser Zeit.
And then verse 19.
Vers 19.
Then was the secret revealed and unto Daniel in a night vision. Then Daniel blessed the God of heaven. So Daniel now receives here the revelation, right?
Daniel erhält hier die Offenbarung.
And at the end, he, according to Daniel chapter 1, what does he have now?
Und am Ende, gemäß Daniel 1, was hat er jetzt?
Understanding in all things.
Yeah, understanding in all visions and dreams. Right?
Verständnis in allen Visionen und Träumen.
And that's why he can now tell the king what is shortly come to pass.
Und deswegen kann er dem König jetzt erzählen, das, was ins Kurze geschehen wird.
Just like Joseph.
Genauso wie Josef das tat.
Okay. Good. Then jump down to verse 24, please.
Vers 24.
Therefore Daniel went in unto Arioch, whom the king had ordained to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went and said thus unto him, Destroy not the wise men of Babylon, bring me in before the king, and I will show unto the king the interpretation. Then Arioch brought in Daniel before the king in haste, and said thus unto him, I have found a man of the captives of Judah, that will make known unto the king the interpretation. And then the king basically wants to hear the interpretation, right?
Das ist Vers 25 und danach der König möchte das hören.
So Daniel now stands here,
Daniel steht jetzt hier.
which would be in this fractal there.
Und das
Okay.
wäre in diesem Fraktal hier sein.
So Daniel gives now, in some sense, the midnight cry message, right?
Daniel gibt im gewissen Sinne der Mitternachtsrufbotschaft.
Because according to Matthew 24, what does it say?
Denn gemäß Matthäus 24, was sagt es?
He sends forth his angels.
Yeah, the gospel is now preached
Das
unto
Evangelium
all nations,
wird
right?
zu allen Nationen gepredigt,
Until the end comes.
bis
Right?
das Ende komme.
Okay. So when you now go down after he gave the interpretation,
So, nachdem die Auslegung gegeben hat,
because he says, "Thou art this head of gold."
weil
Yes,
sagte, du bist diesen Haupt aus Gold.
it's just another evidence
Das ist ein weiteres Beweis dafür,
that Daniel chapter 2 is the first Daniel.
dass
Yes?
Daniel Kapitel 2 das erste Sonntagsgesetz ist.
Okay, so because this is the gold, yes?
Weil das hier ist das Gold.
And then comes
Danach kommt
another kingdom,
ein weiteres Königreich,
silver. Yes?
das Silber.
You remember? Yeah, okay. Then bronze, right?
Dann Bronze.
And then comes
Und danach kommt
iron, right?
das Eisen.
Okay, and has two phases to it, iron and clay also.
So, zwei Phasen dazu, das Eisen und dann Eisen und Ton.
And then it leads you down to the second coming of Christ, yes?
Das führt zur zweiten Kommen Christi hinab.
Okay, so good. So now let us go down to verse 46.
Gehen wir jetzt zu Vers 46.
This is now once Daniel finished his interpretation.
Das ist nachdem Daniel seine Auslegung fertig geredet hat.
Let's see what the reaction of the king is.
Und schauen wir hier, wie der König darauf reagierte.
Then the king Nebuchadnezzar fell upon his face and worshipped Daniel, and commanded that they should offer an oblation in sweet odors unto him. The king answered unto Daniel and said, "Of a truth it is that your God is a God of gods, and a Lord of kings, and a revealer of secrets, seeing thou couldest reveal this secret." Okay, so Nebuchadnezzar now, once he heard this interpretation, he falls down and humbles himself, right?
Nebukadnezar, nachdem diese Auslegung gehört hat, fällt nieder und demütigt sich.
Okay, let's go to Corinthians,
So, gehen wir zu Korinther,
Which one is
1 Corinthians.
1. Korinther.
And it's chapter 14, if I'm not mistaken.
Kapitel 14, glaube ich.
Yes. So 1 Corinthians chapter 14. And verse 24. Let's begin even in verse 23, just to have the context a little bit. 23 to 25.
1. Korinther 14, Vers 23 bis 25.
Speaking about here the church order. Okay.
Spricht hier über die Gemeindeordnung.
It says, "If therefore the whole church be come together into one place, and all speak with tongues, and there come in those that are unlearned or unbelievers, will they not say that ye are mad? But if all prophesy, and there come in one that believeth not, or one unlearned, he is convinced of all, he is judged of all." Was Nebuchadnezzar an unbeliever?
So war Nebukadnezar ein Ungläubiger.
Yes.
Aber
So it says here, if an unbeliever hears the prophecy, then he's convinced and judged of all, right?
sagt, wenn ein Ungläubiger der Prophezeiungen hört, dann ist er
Überzeugt.
überzeugt und gerichtet von allen.
Verse 25.
Vers 25.
And thus are the secrets of his heart made manifest. What is made manifest?
Was wird manifest gemacht?
Secret of his heart.
Das Geheimnis seines Herzens.
And so falling down on his face, he will worship God and report that God is in you of a truth. Right?
Vers 25.
What did Nebuchadnezzar do?
Was tat Nebukadnezar?
Yeah, he got that.
Yeah, he did this very thing. Right?
Tat genau das.
And Pharaoh said that the Holy Spirit was in Joseph.
Yes.
He recognized it.
Mhm.
Pharao hat erkannt, dass der Heilige Geist in Josef war in dieser Geschichte.
Okay, so Daniel told the king's secrets, the secrets of the king's heart, right?
So, Daniel hat die Geheimnisse der Königs Herzens erzählt.
Let's just prove this. Let's go to Daniel 2 again, verse 30.
Zum Beweisen gehen wir zu Daniel 2 wieder und Vers 30.
It says, "But as for me, this secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom, that I have more than any living, but for their sakes that shall make known the interpretation to the king, and that thou mightest know the thoughts of thy heart. Okay, so he was telling him the secret of his heart.
So, er hat ihm die Geheimnisse seines Herzens erzählt.
Okay, and Paul, obviously, what he wrote in 1 Corinthians, he took it from Daniel 2. Right?
Paulus, was er in 1. Korinther geschrieben hat, hat das natürlich hier von Daniel 2 entnommen.
Okay, so therefore, when we go back to verse 46,
So, deswegen, wenn wir zurück zu Vers 46 gehen,
so I want to suggest that when now Daniel stands here and gives the interpretation, he tells the king now what is in his heart, right?
ich möchte vorschlagen, dass wenn Daniel hier steht und die Auslegung den König gibt, erzählt er dem König, was in den Königs Herzen ist.
And the king now humbles himself here,
Und der
because of
König
this,
demütigt sich hier,
because he realizes what is now in his heart. Okay,
weil er stellt fest, was in sein Herz ist.
and
Er
let's
kennt es.
just continue, verse 47 to 49.
Lesen wir jetzt weiter, die Verse 47 bis 49.
It says, the king answered unto Daniel and said, of a truth it is, that your God is a God of gods, and a Lord of kings, and a revealer of secrets, seeing thou couldest reveal this secret. Then the king made Daniel a great man, and gave him many great gifts, and made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon, and chief of the governors over all the wise men of Babylon. Then Daniel requested of the king, and he set Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon, but Daniel sat in the gate of the king. Okay, so what happens here with Daniel and his three friends?
So, was geschieht hier mit Daniel und seinen 3 Gefährten?
They're set over the whole kingdom, right?
Über das ganze Königreich gesetzt worden.
Okay, so Daniel plus 3 friends. Just write exalted. Okay. Just sit. And it says here specifically that in verse 49 that Daniel requested of the king to set up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon, right?
Vers 49, ganz spezifisch. Daniel bittet, dass die 3 Gefährten über das Geschehnisse des Königreichs gesetzt würden.
Okay, so, and now let's go to Daniel chapter 3.
Wir jetzt zu Daniel 3.
Okay, and what I want to suggest now, okay,
Was ich jetzt vorschlagen möchte,
it's still open, okay,
dazu bin ich noch offen,
that Daniel chapter 3 is actually taking place in here,
dass
okay,
Daniel 3 eigentlich findet hier drin statt.
okay, but obviously you can take principles of it and place it already in the first test, okay,
Du kannst aber natürlich Prinzipien davon nehmen und in den ersten Test legen.
but that the prophecy itself marks it here, okay.
Die Prophezeiung selbst markiert es eben hier drin.
So now I want to give my reasons. Okay.
Ich möchte jetzt meine Gründe dafür geben.
So let's go to Daniel 3,
Daniel 3,
beginning verse 1.
fangen wir in Vers 1 an.
It says, Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold, whose height was 60 cubits, and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set it up in the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king sent together the princes, the governors and the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces, to come to the dedication of the image which Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. So he sets up now this golden image, right?
Er setzt diesen goldenen Standbild auf.
So if it would be in this time here, where would we mark this?
So, wenn es in diese Zeitperiode wäre, wo werden wir es markieren?
Abomination of desolation.
When exactly, yeah.
Also,
When the abomination of desolation is set up, right?
weil der Verwüstung aufgerichtet wird.
Okay. So this little horn here that now would rule for 1260.
So
Okay.
ein kleiner Horn hier, der 1260 lang regieren wird.
Once it's interesting that, as prompting this point, that the statue was 60 and by 6, right?
Mhm.
It's 360, which is a year.
So, der Statue ist 360, was gleich ein Jahr wäre.
Mhm.
You don't get the point.
Ah, you mean a year?
Yes.
Das ist eben ein Jahr.
Mhm.
because it's also, when he stands before the king in Daniel 4,
Mhm.
he's basically giving them this year, right? So there's some point where he obviously lifts himself back up again, right? So he, sort of some correlation to Daniel 4 with this also.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, there's definitely correlation to it.
Das ist ein Zusammenhang mit Daniel 4.
And we might come to this later.
Und vielleicht kommen wir dazu noch.
But I'm just saying that
Mhm.
definitely marks, there's a year there.
Mhm.
And we've looked for years to try and understand what this symbol is, but it's 360, and that's a year.
Mhm. Yes.
Wir haben lange versucht zu verstehen, was dieses Symbol ist, aber es ist eben ein Jahr.
I mean, pagan Rome also in this what rules for a year, it says, right?
Heidnischen Rom in dieser Zeit regiert für ein Jahr,
That's what Daniel 11 says.
das was Daniel 11 sagt.
So yeah, might be so. Therefore, pagan Rome's year would be here, and papal Rome's year would be there.
Heidnischen Rom, ihr Jahr wäre hier drin und päpstliches Rom da drin.
Okay.
Why is it 360?
60 cubits
by 6.
by 6.
Oh,
It's a breadth of 60 cubits.
60 Ellen mal.
No, height is 60 cubits and breadth is 6 cubits.
okay.
So it's 360 cubits. Okay, so, but let us now continue, okay?
Lesen wir jetzt weiter.
And we know, right, because in the 7th plague, just keep your finger here in Daniel, let's go to Revelation chapter 16.
So, halte den Platz hier in Daniel und geht zur Offenbarung 16.
What would be talk as a positive thing often for that is that, I mean, you're marking it being set up right here at the beginning, right? And it would parallel with the Sunday law,
Yes.
where the image begins.
Yes.
Also hier markieren, ist es parallel mit dem Sonntagsgesetz, wo das Standbild fängt an.
Okay, so, and also when we go to Revelation 16,
Und auch wenn wir zur Offenbarung 16 gehen,
verse 17,
Vers 17,
it says, And the 7th angel poured out his vial into the air. And there came a great voice out of the temple of heaven from the throne saying, It is done. And so when the 7th vial is poured out, what does it say?
wenn die 7. Schale ausgegossen wird, was sagt es?
It is done.
Es ist
Right?
getan.
Would be here, yes?
Das wäre hier sein.
It's always at the end of the time of trouble, it is done.
Es wird immer am Ende der Zeit des Trübsals, es ist getan.
And then verse 19, what happens then?
Vers 19, was geschieht?
And the great city was divided into 3 parts, and the cities of the nations fell, and great Babylon came in remembrance before God to give unto her the cup of the wine of the fierceness of his wrath. So what happens here with the threefold union?
So, was geschieht hier mit der dreifaltigen Union?
Yeah, it falls apart, right? It separates.
Wird getrennt.
Okay. But the mystery was always, at least in my mind, okay,
Revelation 19.
when you go to Revelation 19,
Das Geheimnis, zumindest in meinem Verstand, aber wenn wir zur Offenbarung 19 gehen,
when Christ comes here at the very end of the 7th plague,
wenn
okay,
Christus hier am Ende der 7. Plage kommt,
and he comes on the white horse,
dann
right?
kommt auf dem weißen Pferd reiten.
And then it says in verse 19,
Und sagt es in Vers 19,
19 and 20.
19 und 20.
It says, And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse and against his army. So who's back together to make war against him here at the very end?
Also wer ist hier wieder zusammengekommen, um gegen ihn am Ende Krieg zu führen?
Yes, so the threefold union. So there must be a,
Dreifaltige Union.
in between somewhere a time where they came back together. Okay.
Es muss dazwischen eine Zeit
Hier.
geben, wo sie wieder zusammenkommen. Das wäre dann hier sein.
In Gethsemane.
Yes.
The threefold union are there, and then they all fall back, and then they come back up again.
Yes.
Remember this point we
Yes,
discussed?
yes.
In Gethsemane, die dreifaltige Union, kommen auf und die fallen rückwärts und dann kommen sie wieder auf.
Let's just go there shortly to John chapter 18.
Gehen wir dahin zu Johannes 18.
Because Jesus' Gethsemane experience, where do we mark it?
Jesus seine Gethsemane-Erfahrung, wo markieren wir das?
That's the sixth plague, right?
Das ist der 6. Plage.
Would be here, right?
Das werde
He's
hier sein.
praying 3 times, right?
Er betet 3-mal.
And at the end, who comes down to strengthen him?
Und am Ende, wer kommt herab, um ihn zu stärken?
Yeah, Moses and Elijah, Gabriel, right?
Mose und Elia, Gabriel.
Okay, and then he overcame, right? He fully submitted, this is what it says. Okay.
Er hat überwunden. Ellen White sagt, er war vollständig hingegeben.
But then Judas comes along. Okay.
Aber dann kommt Judas.
So let's go here to John chapter 18.
So gehen wir zu Johannes 18.
Verse 1.
Vers 1.
When Jesus had spoken these words, he went forth with his disciples over the brook Kidron, where was a garden, into the which he entered and his disciples. And Judas also, which betrayed him, knew the place, for Jesus oft times resorted thither with his disciples. So he's now in Gethsemane here, right?
Er ist jetzt in Gethsemane.
And Judas comes.
Und Judas kommt.
Would be at the end of Gethsemane experience, right?
Das wäre am Ende der Gethsemane-Erfahrung.
So there's a specific reason why John is not relating the Gethsemane experience as the other disciples do. Okay.
Es gibt einen bestimmten Grund, warum Johannes die Gethsemane-Erfahrung nicht so darlegt, wie die anderen 3 Evangelien es tun.
No, because he just says, okay, went into the garden and then Judas came immediately. Okay.
Er sagt, sie ging im Garten hinein, da kam Judas.
But I don't want to go into this now, but let's just go to verse 3.
Gehen wir jetzt zu Vers 3.
Judas then, having received a band of men and officers from the chief priests and Pharisees, cometh thither with lanterns and torches and weapons. Jesus therefore, knowing all things that should come upon him, went forth and said unto them, Whom seek ye? They answered him, Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus saith unto them, I am he. And Judas also, which betrayed him, stood with him. As soon as he had said unto them, I am he, they went backward and fell to the ground.
Das ist Vers 6.
And Sister White says, when the 7th plague comes here, this is when they all fall backward. Okay?
Ellen White sagt, wenn die 7. Plage hier kommt, sie fallen alle rückwärts.
Yes. But then they rush again upon them. See, she says at a
Aber
later
dann
point. Okay.
stürmen sie wieder auf sie zu, sagt sie in einem späteren
What
Punkt.
happens here?
Und was geschieht hier in dieser Geschichte?
They come then again, right? Verse 7.
Vers 7.
Then ask ye them again, Whom seek ye? And they said, Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus answered, I have told you that I am he. If therefore ye seek me, let these go their way, that the saying might be fulfilled, which he spake of them which thou gavest me, have I lost none. Then Simon Peter, having a sword, drew it and smote the high priest's servant, and cut off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus. Then said Jesus unto Peter, Put thy sword into the sheath. The cup which my Father has given me, shall I not drink it? Then the band and the captain and officers of the Jews took Jesus and bound him.
Vers
So-
12.
Where he get bound would be then the next time of trouble, right?
So, wo du gebunden wirst, wäre der nächste Zeit des Trübsals.
Yes. And then how many times has he tried?
Und wie oft wird er verhört?
7 times.
7
Okay.
Mal.
Okay. Now let us go back to Daniel chapter 3.
Gehen wir zurück zu Daniel 3.
So Nebuchadnezzar then sets up this image here, right? And he says everybody is now to bow down when the music comes. Okay?
Nebuchadnezzar stellt diesen Standbild hier auf und jeder soll sich beugen, wenn der Musik anfängt.
And this morning, what principle did we looked at?
Und heute Morgen, welches Prinzip haben wir angeschaut?
Yeah, first comes deception and then persecution. Right?
Erst kommt Verführung und danach Verfolgung.
So he plays now this music. Okay.
Er spielt hier diese Musik.
Okay, and what happens then in verse 8?
Und was geschieht dann im Vers 8?
Wherefore at that time certain Chaldeans came near and accused the Jews. They spake and said to the king Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. Thou, O king, hast made a decree that every man that shall hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, shall fall down and worship the golden image. And whoso falleth not down and worshippeth, that he should be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. There are certain Jews whom thou hast set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded thee. They serve not thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. Okay, so what are they saying in verse 12?
Sagen sie in Vers 12?
Yeah, that there are some Jews that he set up over the affairs of the king, of the kingdom, right?
Es gibt Juden, einige Juden, die sie über den Geschehnisse des Königreiches gesetzt hast.
Past tense,
In
okay?
der Vergangenheit.
So, therefore,
Deswegen,
where did we see this Nebuchadnezzar set them up over the affairs of the kingdom?
wo haben wir gesehen, dass Nebukadnezar sie über den Geschehnisse des Königreiches gesetzt hat?
Yeah, here, in Daniel chapter 2, right?
Daniel 2,
The Midnight Cry. So,
zur Mitternachtsruf.
therefore, this incident must be future of this, right?
So, deswegen dieses Geschehnis hier muss in der Zukunft von diesem Ereignis sein.
But it also cannot be, so it would be in here, right?
Es werde denn hier drin sein.
It cannot be in the second Sunday law.
Es kann nicht in der zweiten Sonntagsgesetz sein.
Why not?
Warum nicht?
Because it's Nebuchadnezzar, right?
Es ist Nebukadnezar.
And let's see how he's reacting here in verse 13.
Lass uns schauen, wie in Vers 13 er reagiert.
It says, Then Nebuchadnezzar, in his rage and fury, commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then they brought these men before the king. So how is Nebuchadnezzar towards God's people?
So wie ist Nebukadnezar zu Gottes Volk?
In wrath and fury, right?
In Zorn und Wut.
Who is here in the second Sunday law?
So wer ist hier im zweiten Sonntagsgesetz?
Belshazzar is the wicked one, but who's the first king?
So wer ist der erste König?
Darius, exactly.
Darius.
Darius is Nebuchadnezzar once he was humbled, right? And
Darius
converted.
ist Nebukadnezar, nachdem er gedemütigt wurde.
Okay, so and Darius, how is he towards God's people?
Und Darius, wie ist er zu Gottes Volk?
Yeah, sympathetic, right?
Er hat Sympathie.
I mean, he gets deceived, right?
Er würde verführt,
But once he realized he's deceived, he's not full of wrath against God's people. Okay.
nachdem er stellt fest, dass er verführt würde. Er ist nicht voller Zorn für Gottes Volk,
But
zu
he
Gottes
tries to
Volk,
save them. Okay.
sondern er versucht, sie zu retten.
So therefore-
Daniel in diesem Fall.
Clearly, Daniel 3 must be found in the first Sunday law. Okay.
Es ist klar, dass Daniel 3 muss im ersten Sonntagsgesetz gefunden
And
sein.
it must be found after the three friends were set over the affairs of the kingdom.
Es
Okay.
muss da geschehen, nachdem die drei Freunde über die Geschehnisse des Königreichs gesetzt wurden.
Yes. So therefore, the only thing that is left for us, at least according to our knowledge at the moment, would be in here. Okay.
Das Einzige, was denn übrig bleibt, gemäß unserem Verständnis, wäre denn hier drin sein.
Okay. And it must be in the time of trouble. Okay. It must be therefore found in here. Okay.
Zeit des Trübsals sein, deswegen hier drin.
Okay. So, and yes, and they are now delivered up before the king, right?
Sie sind jetzt dem König ausgeliefert.
So, and yeah, there's always this question, yeah, how many fractals can we go lower? Okay,
Es gibt immer diese offene Frage, wie viele Fraktalen geht es noch kleiner?
because we understand, right? When the image is set up and they get delivered up, there's always this time period in between, right?
Wir verstehen, wenn diese Bildnis aufgestellt wird und sie ausgeliefert wird, gibt es immer diese Zeitperiode.
This is the way it says first comes deception
Yes.
and then
Persecution.
Ellen White sagt, zuerst kommt Verführung und danach Verfolgung.
So therefore, there would come a time basically when they get delivered up, right?
Es werde eine Zeit lang kommen, wo sie ausgeliefert werden.
And eventually, what would happen to them?
Und letztendlich, was wird mit ihnen geschehen?
He gives them a time to repent,
Er
right?
gibt ihnen eine Zeit, Buße zu tun.
But what does he then do at the end?
Aber was tut er dann am Ende?
He casts them into the fiery
Er
furnace,
werft
right?
sie ins Feuerofen.
I don't know why you're putting that down there.
I can also draw out a new
No,
line here.
Just the second half of that.
In the second half.
Here,
No, I mean this.
just the second half once. Connor showed this morning, right? You take the big fractal here, right? The middle one.
Also
Mhm.
der mittlere
Mhm.
Fraktal.
The middle one,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
So the first half of Matthew 24 is the deception,
Yeah, this here, right?
right? Yeah.
Hmm.
And now don't go to just go. There's a time of peace then, right?
Okay.
So it stops there. That's deception. Then persecution begins.
So die erste Hälfte von Matthäus 24 ist es Verführung und dann eine Zeit des Trübsals fängt wieder an.
So it must be the same there.
Es muss eben dasselbe da sein.
Ja,
Just take that bit away from, because it's probably where we're placing things is been confusing. Don't put that thing at the end. It'll just be the same.
What? I
You
should
say-
not put
say
it.
Next one.
take that
Take
away, just
that
put
away.
FF, it's this time here.
Okay, but the only point is because that would be this here, right? That would be the deception here.
Das wäre dann die Verführung hier drin
Yes.
Mhm.
sein.
And that would be the persecution, and that
Because
would be
remember,
the
it
fire
just-
furnace. This is this, and this is this.
Because if you're going to take that, then it will go all the way to the end. There will be no middle bit there. That's what I'm saying. Why are you putting a middle bit there? You're taking it from the. What I'm saying is you've stopped the point is the deception. If you take the middle fractal and start again at the second half.
Okay, let me just draw it out and then maybe.
No, you don't need to draw anything. It's right there. The middle one, right?
Mhm.
Go to go there, yes.
Mhm.
Remember this morning, the false prophets again rise up there. So there's another deception.
Falsche Propheten kommen hier herauf, also es
Yeah,
ist
that's
wieder
the second deception.
Verführung.
Yes, second repeat, so deception, and then leads you to where they're going to preach it. So there you are, there, right? So now we base it on, we put this little thing at the end. It doesn't matter. Sometimes maybe it's our lines that make things difficult, but it doesn't matter. So when you come down underneath, you've just got one box there, so it has to be the same as that box number 6. It has to be the same. Why have you put those lines in the middle now?
Well, what I want to do is basically this. This would be this.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Just leave the middle line. You haven't got anything to show that at the minute. Just take box number 6 there in the middle would be the same as box 7 there. That's what you're showing.
You mean this?
No, leave those fine lines. Take the 2 lines in the middle out. Those 2 lines, yes. And when you look up there, at the 6th plague and the line above,
Mhm.
should be exactly the same as that. That's all you're trying to illustrate. If you want to show something in the middle there, you need another illustration to show that.
Okay. Alright, I mean, I don't want to argue, but I don't know, this would probably break the pattern then.
Once look, just 6 and 7 are there, right? So if 6 is the time of deception followed by the time of persecution, then 7 has to be the same. Can't be something different.
Yes. Okay, we can discuss it later. Okay, it's not so important right now. Okay, so but the only point I want to show is
Das ist das Einzige, was ich denn zeigen möchte.
that basically the fiery furnace here would bring you then down to the end. Okay.
Das Feuerofen hier wird dich zum Ende bringen.
Okay, and when you go now back to Daniel chapter 3,
Wenn wir zurück zu Daniel 3 gehen,
because when they then come out of the fiery furnace, okay,
wenn sie jetzt aus dem Feuerofen herauskommen,
verse 29 to
Yes.
30,
29 und 30,
says, Therefore I make a decree that every people, nation, and language which speak anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made a dunghill, because there is no other God that can deliver after this sort. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. So what does he do at the end?
so was tut er am Ende?
He promotes them again.
Er
Okay.
befördert sie wieder.
So, three friends
Yeah, it was right at the end that.
exalted,
So die 3 Freunde werden erhöht
and
und
he makes a counter decree.
er macht ein Gegendekret.
Okay, which would be then here, right?
Werde denn hier sein.
Bringing in the time of peace. Okay.
Das führt den Zeit des
Same
Friedens
as
an.
Daniel 6 is at the end. It's
Yes.
Dasselbe wie bei Daniel 6 am Ende.
Okay, and when we go now to the live stream,
Und wenn wir jetzt zu den Livestream-Gruppe
I
gehen,
posted one quote there,
ich habe ein Zitat da gepostet,
and then you can see that basically even the historical outline which Sister White gives here fits also in the prophetic pattern. Okay.
und wir sehen, dass das Historische, was Ellen White hier gibt, das passt in den prophetischen Muster ein.
Okay, so in the first paragraph she begins first with a account of Daniel chapter 2.
Und in den ersten Absatz, sie fängt an mit einer Wiederholung von Daniel 2.
It says,
Auslegung Daniel 2.
okay, everybody there?
Jeder da?
It says that the dream of the great image opening before Nebuchadnezzar, events reaching to the close of time had been given that he might understand the part he was to act in the world's history, and the relation that his kingdom should sustain to the kingdom of heaven. In the interpretation of the dream, he had been plainly instructed regarding the establishment of God's everlasting kingdom. In the days of these kings, Daniel had declared, shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. The dream is certain and the interpretation thereof sure. Daniel 2. Now it says here, the king had acknowledged the power of gods, saying to Daniel, of a truth it is that your God is a God of gods, a revealer of secrets. So here Nebuchadnezzar acknowledges the power of God, right?
Und hier erkennt Nebuchadnezzar die Kraft Gottes an.
But then it says,
Dann sagt es,
for a time afterward, Nebuchadnezzar was influenced by the fear of God. That would be in this time of little peace here, right?
das werde diese Zeit des Friedens hier sein.
But his heart was not yet cleansed from worldly ambition and a desire of self-exaltation. The prosperity attending his reign filled him with pride. In time, he ceased to honor God and resumed to his idol worship with increased zeal and bigotry. So that would be then here, right?
Das wird denn hier sein.
So this is where he forgets God again.
Hier ist, wo Gott wieder vergisst.
It says, the words, thou art this head of gold, which Daniel spoke here, right?
Also diese Worte, du bist dieser Haupt aus Gold, die Daniel hier ausgesprochen hat,
Had made a deep impression upon the ruler's mind. The wise men of his realm, taking advantage of this and of his return to idolatry, proposed that he make an image similar to the one seen in his dream, and set it up where all might behold the head of gold, which had been interpreted as representing his kingdom. So that's where they make the suggestion, right?
das ist hier, wo diesen Vorschlag macht.
Pleased with a flattering suggestion, he determined to carry it out and to go even farther. Instead of reproducing the image as he had seen it, he would excel the original. His image should not deteriorate in value from the head to the feet, but should be entirely of gold, symbolic throughout of Babylon, as an eternal, indestructible, all-powerful kingdom, which should break in pieces all other kingdoms and stand forever. And so here we can see, so Nebuchadnezzar first humbles himself and fears God,
Und wir sehen, dass Nebuchadnezzar zuerst demütigt sich und fürchtet Gott.
but then he begins to lift himself up again. Okay,
Und dann fängt er an, sich wieder zu erheben.
and it's humbled again here at the end. Okay,
Wo hier wieder?
humbled.
Und er wird hier am Ende wieder gedemütigt.
So, and that's also then a similar illustration with Daniel 4. Okay,
Das ist eine ähnliche Darstellung wie bei Daniel 4.
because Daniel stands also here before the king in Daniel 4
Daniel 4, Daniel steht hier auch vor dem König
and tells him, unless you repent, you will be cut off here.
und
Right?
sagt ihm, es sei denn, dass du Buße tust, wirst du hier abgeschnitten werden.
And this is why it says, for a moment he also feared, yeah,
Und White sagt, für einen Moment fürchtete er sich auch.
but then he started to lift himself up again, and at the end he was,
A year later,
a year later, he was full of pride and was cut down.
Fing er an, sich wieder zu erheben und ein Jahr später ist er abgehauen
so I
worden.
think that statues represent a year. It's going to stand for a year, then it's going to be brought down.
Deswegen glaube ich, diese Statue stellt ein Jahr dar, es wird für ein Jahr stehen und dann wird es zum Fall gebracht.
Okay, so everybody could follow?
Konnte jeder folgen?
Yeah.
So therefore, yeah, it's most likely that Daniel 3 is then in this time here, but
I think that's.
you can still take the principle of the fiery furnace and apply it also to the first group, as can be seen in Zechariah 3. Okay?
So, deswegen glaube ich, dass Daniel 3 hier drin in diese Zeit ist. Und du kannst den Prinzip von den Feuerofen hier nehmen und hier bringen, so für die erste Gruppe, so wie in Zechariah 3.
And we could see also that this papal horn, according to Daniel chapter 8, is ruling here, right? That would
Wir
be
sehen, dass diese päpstliche Horn gemäß Daniel 8 regiert hier drin.
There's another one is like Joseph and like Jonah and like Christ. They've already gone through their test there.
yes,
And
and
they
they
go through it again.
yes.
So wie Jona, Josef und Christus, sie haben bereits ihren Test hier durchgegangen, aber sie mussten es nochmal hier durchgehen.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Then let's take these thoughts, let's test them, and then we can have our prayer round.
Lass uns diese Gedanken mitnehmen und prüfen, dann können wir unsere Gebetsstunde haben.